Well, aloha kakahiaka, everyone. I'm Peter Kay. I'll be your host for today. Welcome to the pregame show of the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show. If you're listening to this and it's pre-recorded, you can zoom forward 4 to 5 minutes to get to where the real show is. Now, I'm joined by my friends over here. I've got I've got my good friends. I got Dylan Nonaka, who's on the Big Island. I've got Scott Startsman, who's on Oahu, and I've got Heidi Dallinger, who's on Maui. And look, they're all on the phone. Why? Because the market is insane. You know, they're just like down to the wire on the phone right before the market got insane. So I want to kind of give a quick, let's do a quick shout out to these crazy realtors. Everybody unmute yourselves and say hello. So Dylan, man, Dylan, is it, how crazy is it on a scale of 1 to, well, 1 to 5 is too low resolutions. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being horrible, 1 being nothing and 10 being beyond insane. What's the how insane is it?
Well, in my experience, it's a 10. I mean, I have not ever experienced anything like this. And a lot of the old timers I talk to, you know, people that have been around longer than I've been alive are agreeing. You know, they went through the Japanese bubble and the bubble back in 2007. And the big dynamic is that we keep talking about inventory, right? I mean, there's like nothing for sale. Yeah, and it's still, I'm starting to feel a little bit of fatigue from buyers. You know, getting a little bit discouraged, getting beat out 3 or 4 times. So, you know, that may start taking an effect, and then we're seeing really aggressive pricing on the listing side. So I'm sure we'll talk more about that once we get into the show.
Yeah, we will. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, hey, Charles, making $1 million deals, man. That's what we all dream of, right? Living the dream. And hey, welcome, Rona. We're glad to have you here. Scott, crazy, right? How nuts is it?
Yeah, I kind of judge the market by the number of cups of coffee I got to have in the morning, and I'm on cup number 3 already. So,
third cup of coffee.
I'm going to take 1 second here just to enjoy the moment, because I haven't even had a chance to look. I don't even know what the weather's been like. It's just been so bananas and so nuts, off the charts, just constantly going till 11 at night and stuff. So
it looks absolutely beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful out there. Yeah, it looks terrific. Heidi, so Scott's on his third cup. How crazy is it? You were on the phone right before you got on the show too. And how crazy is it? And what's the coffee of the day today?
Well, I'm drinking a Maui blend coffee today, and I made it at home. It's great. I did get to go outside. I walked over to the ocean, got to feel the warm sunshine, and then came right back inside. I mean, the real estate markets just continued to be super, super busy, as we've all said. I mean, early morning till late at night working and phone ringing. And anyway, it's fun. It's competitive, but you have to have those quiet moments too, to just truly enjoy where we are.
Yeah. Well said. You do have to, you got to give yourself that time. Go ahead, Scott.
Real quick. You know, we were talking about this just a second ago. You know, you're wearing a jacket and you look like you're in a bunker.
Don't tell anyone. I'm in an undisclosed location. So I don't have my normal Aloha shirt and my warm Hawaii. I'm in an undisclosed location. That's all I can say at this moment. Yeah, exactly. Hey, so we got a few more folks who are joining us over here. So we got Tom. Welcome back, Tom. Great to see you. Aloha, everyone. And who else? And we got Rona. Rona will. So Rona threw a bunch of questions, and Rona, we're gonna hold on to those questions. I'm gonna get to them absolutely. Judy. Judy is a member of the Islander Ohana. Welcome back, Judy. Great to see you. Aloha Friday. Happy Aloha Friday. Alex Martin. Alex. Let me back up to Alex Martin over here. Alex Martin agrees. Alex Martin says, "Stop looking because everything is out of my reach." Yeah, and I. You know, we'll talk more about this during the actual market review part, but yeah, it is the end is I don't think the end is quite in sight just yet, and it is that time actually. That time is, man, we're flying right by. And who else is joining us over here? Hey, Mark, welcome back, Mark Whitehill, a member of the Islander Ohana. Auntie Joyce, a honorary member of the Islander Ohana. Happy sunny Friday. It is. And Navit's with us. Welcome back, Navit. I'm Navneet. I believe you're with us at the last show, if I'm not mistaken. So great to have you back. Everyone's the whole this is so much fun, right? The extended Ohana is coming back to kind of see us. Jim David, aloha from San Diego, leaving for a wedding on Maui in exactly 1 month. Yay! Then off to Big Island to visit relatives and try out a couple of condo complexes by renting for a few days. That's great advice. And if Jim, if you've been to our previous shows, you've seen that you've said that advice. Jim, you should drop by and say hello to Dylan when you're on the Big Island. I'm sure Dylan would love to talk to you guys and share his great wisdom. Great to have you join us. Everyone's coming. This is so much fun. I gotta tell you, this is so much fun. Here's Joan Valentine. Welcome, Joan from Colorado Springs. Aloha. Patrick is here. Welcome, Patrick. Good to see you again. Robert H. Welcome, Robert. And great to see you guys. Oh, Alex says Alex misses the Big Island already. Was on the Big Island a month ago. Yeah, once Hawaii gets in your blood, man, it's just like you can't. It's hard to let go. All right, let's get the show started. Everybody, welcome everyone. I'm your host Peter K. Your host for the Aloha Friday Hawaii Real Estate Show. And I am here with my friends. We've got Dylan Nonaka, who's joining us from the Big Island. We've got Scott Startsman, who's joining us from Oahu. And we have Heidi Hollinger, who's joining us from Maui. I'm so pleased. We got a statewide group of experts on an important topic, real estate. So we're going to start the show off with a little bit of local news. So let me kind of fill you folks in on kind of what's going on, a couple of things that have occurred. So the statewide inter-island vaccine passport program is up and running. Now it's very limited. First and foremost, you have to be a Hawaii Island resident. You have to be a resident of Hawaii. You have to have gotten your vaccine in Hawaii, apparently because that's the only places that they can validate the vaccines are legit. So it's only working for residents, and it's only working for inter-island travel. It's not yet working for trans-Pacific travel. So even if you're a Hawaii resident and you're returning from the U.S. mainland to Hawaii and you got your vaccine in Hawaii, it still is not going to apply. So it's quite limited. However, it's one step in the right direction. So we're kind of happy about that. There's going to be, if you're planning on coming out to Hawaii, you may want to kind of think about those plans and come sooner rather than later. There's a whole bunch of bills that are being contemplated that would result in increases in the lodging taxes. Long story short, what they're going to be doing is letting counties put their own hotel taxes on top of the existing state hotel tax. So if that happens, governments love nothing more than the freedom to tax. And if that occurs, I predict you're going to see a whole a slurry of new taxes coming on. So things are probably about to get more expensive. There's more politics behind all that, but we're going to save you those agonies. Big Island construction. I want to hear from Dylan about this one when we get to that part of the show, but apparently construction is through the roof. The Big Island is leading all of the islands on the amount of construction, either permits or activity, etc. So that's another one. And I'm going to want to hear about Scott on this one. We've talked about this before. Hawaii landlords, there are some bills that are they're being passed now that would make it create a payment plan for past due renters. So the COVID thing, there's all these people who have not paid their rent, COVID for et cetera. They've been able to they've not been evicted up until now. These laws are about to expire, so they're concerned about evictions. So there's a law that looks like it's being passed around, hasn't been passed yet, that would make essentially the landlord pay for some of that rent by having a payment program. That might make the housing crisis worse, unintended consequences. We'll talk more about that later. And Hawaii, I discovered that we are the tops in the nation for worrying about COVID. Maybe that's why we have the lowest COVID rates. I'm not sure. Correlation does not equal causation, but certainly we know that we worry about COVID the most. Now, I did post a video a long time ago, early in the COVID days. You may want to go to the YouTube channel and look up, don't come to Hawaii during COVID. And I talked about there's a history in Hawaii behind diseases. It goes all the way back to the 1800s and smallpox that wiped out a large part of the population. There is a historical context why local Hawaii residents are very cautious about diseases being spread. There's a deep history behind it. And finally, I want to hear from Heidi about this one. The tourists are back in rural Hana, but the residents are not happy. So, there was a great statement over here, but basically during COVID, a lot of us all of us that live here during COVID got a feel for what it must have been like in Hawaii a long time ago, because the beaches were all empty. There was no visitors. It was just basically locals. And, that went on for some long time. And, we got used to it. And now all of a sudden, the visitors are all coming back. So now we have traffic, we have driving, we have crowded beaches. And Hana, the great quote here is, the quote was, quote, "It was just really beautiful that all of our kids got to experience a taste of what this place used to be." She said, "I want to go back." And I think that really clarifies what that whole thing is all about. So that's the quick update. Our COVID things look great. I mean, our fatality rates are low. We're not following the curve of COVID cases, which is good. It's a good sign. We're on our way to herd immunity. I heard about the CDC has said that masks are going to be, you don't necessarily have to wear your mask. So hopefully that's going to result in some relaxing of the masks. Our governor Ige said, we're not going to do any of that. We're going to keep our masks on for right now. So, which is typical. It reflects kind of the local sentiment here. So we'll see where that's going to go. But anyway, that's a quick news roundup. Let's do a quick roundup of the news locally. Dylan will go in the order. Dylan, Scott, and Heidi. Dylan, news-wise, you saw that story about construction off the charts on Big Island. What other news has occurred that's notable on the Big Island over the past 2 weeks?
Well, the interesting thing about that construction kind of number or statistic is they don't really qualify what that means, right? I mean, there's a lot of government construction going on, right? Like government projects and stuff. There's a lot of luxury development going on. There are a lot of homes being built like in South Hilo, like the Puna area, spec homes where people are putting up single family residences on 1 acre lots, agricultural lots. But there isn't like widespread residential homes being built. It's kind of a misconception that they're saying that construction is really booming here. They're not building, there are no big developments of new single family homes. There's kind of onesie twosies here and there in the South Hilo area and some other areas of the island. But a lot of those permits too are renovations. People who have bought something that is old that needed upgrading, and you got to do permits if you're going to redo the kitchen and move some plumbing around, add a bathroom, stuff like that. So construction is busy. Definitely everybody in that industry is happy, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're building more homes or homes for regular people, because they're building $5 million homes on the regular. So
it's kind of a statistic kind of a thing, but not so much it's not kind of what you would think it is if you kind of had boots on the ground, basically.
It's not necessarily like a positive thing for regular people, right? I mean,
right.
If you're in the construction industry, it's cool because you're building new bridges and roads and stuff like that, doing some new building construction. Or, if you're flying in a private jet, they're building you a house. But everybody else, not really.
You got a private jet that's building you out. Like, great statement. So Scott, what's new on Oahu? I don't know if you saw I don't know if you've been tracking those launch around and what that's going to do, but what else has been going on Oahu news-wise that you want to kind of share?
Well, one real quick one is we just had a monk seal pup that was born on the beach down in Kaimana. So that was a nice, cute little news story for Oahu.
And Kaimana, that's right by your house, so that's like right around the corner, basically. How cool!
Yeah, that's where I go swimming all the time and hang out. It's a great little beach right next to the natatorium. So it's taken up half the beach. They blocked off half the beach. There's a million people down there taking photos every time the thing moves a flipper, even, or whatever it is, whatever you call it.
It's the newest star. What else, Scott?
No, the Renner article you were talking about makes no sense to me. Anytime the government gets involved, it's a disaster. And I think that's contributed to what our lack of housing supply right now. You give all these breaks and incentives for people, and nobody moves, nobody goes anywhere. So now you don't have this inventory that comes on. So wait for the train wreck to come down the road on this one as well.
And that's the thing out there. You've got you're getting like a temporary relief, but the headache is going to be much worse when the party is over. So, or the hangover, I should say. Well, we'll see where that's all going to go. Heidi, what's been going on? If you saw that article in Hana, what the sentiment is of visitors, or what else do you want to share, Heidi, about what's been going on in Maui over the past 2 weeks?
Well, the big news over here is Maui has implemented a second COVID test requirement. And maybe we talked about this on the last show, but it's kind of a big deal because if you are not vaccinated, once you arrive in the airport on Maui, you have to receive another COVID test right there. So it's certainly incentivizing people to get the vaccine. However, I mean, not everybody can get the vaccine. Sometimes people have a previous medical condition or for whatever reason. So you still have to take the test before you travel, but then when you land on Maui, you have to take another test at the airport. So anyway.
So to clarify, so even if you like did your thing, you used the Travels app and you got fully tested, less than 72 hours prior, you land in Maui, even after you land in Maui, you have to get a second test as well?
Yes. So they just implemented this about a week ago. So
that's what the Big Island's been doing the whole time, pretty much.
Second test on the Big Island. Yeah. And okay, so that's what you got to do. That's just all there is to it. You got to get your second test. So even if you got to get a bunch of tests, and hopefully this is going to end soon, friends. Hopefully this will end soon. I'm really hoping, praying that the herd immunity is going to do us some good in the state of Hawaii.
My wonder is if you're, if you don't have to wear a mask if you're vaccinated, how do you know if you're vaccinated? Are you going to get a red badge that says V on it or something so you don't have to wear your mask? Like, I'm wondering, how is that going to be enforced? So
I think they've got a Star of David that's going to be wearing. I think that's what I heard. Could be a rumor, but that's what I heard. All right, great. Hey, thanks, gang. Let's
and one more thing on the construction front, and just in general news and housing and stuff, is the prices of lumber is insane, right? I mean, people are seeing that it's like $100 for a sheet of plywood right now, and that's an interesting kind of ripple effect of the whole shutdown. Was they shut down manufacturing of lumber for months, but Home Depot and Lowe's were essential businesses that stayed open, and then people were home, so they said we're going to do home renovation projects. So this demand on building materials went up, and then they weren't being manufactured. So now there's a huge shortage in the supply chain of building materials, which is driving the cost up, and it's going to further disincentivize new building or further drive up the cost of housing if you do actually build. So that's just kind of starting to take effect, and it's probably going to be, that's going to fully develop over the next 6 to 12 months when the supply chain shortage is fully realized.
What's going to be interesting, and of course a little bit scary, is going to be that during this whole COVID period, right, there's been sort of these unprecedented things have been occurring. It's been sort of we've unprecedented shutdown of the world economy, essentially, right? Unprecedented shutdown, quarantine, economic stimulus, trillions of dollars being pumped into the economy. All these things that have been done with not really an understanding or too much thought given to the, what are the unforeseen consequences, right? We always have unforeseen consequences, and they're truly unforeseen. So it's going to be interesting to kind of see, what are these unforeseen consequences that are going to be coming about as we kind of go ourselves into recovery. We're going to have, potentially sky high interest rates. We have shortages of lumber, shortages of housing. People are being incentivized not to move. It's going to be kind of a rough and tumble world. That is for darn sure. Let's see. So Rona had a nice kind word. Thank you, Rona. Thank you. I sound great person. I appreciate you. So thank you for saying that. I've got your questions, Rona. I want to get into the next segment real quick to talk about, to do a real estate update. Joyce has a comment here. And Joyce says, I think the wood for our new Haole Community I think that the wood for our new Haole Community Center in the yard, in-store garden stuff, cost my husband over $1,000. Yeah. So it's like through the roof, man, through the roof. And what's kind of, I don't want to go. Dylan.
Oh no, I saw a great meme that said, I asked my buyer to send me proof of cash funds, and he sent me this. It was a picture of a stack of lumber, right?
Yeah. I ended up getting one that says I have a 4x8 sheet of 5/8 thick plywood willing to trade for a 2018 to 2020 Corvette convertible with less than 10,000 miles and clean title. No lowballers. I know what I have.
I mean, it's a really kind of a wacky world. All right, let's transition into the next part of the show here and give a quick real estate market update. We've touched on these things before, so obviously just talk about the stuff that's new. Dylan, what do you got let's go in reverse order. Let's go Heidi, Scott, and Dylan. Heidi, what's kind of happening besides the insanity on Maui that's worth talking about?
Well, I'll start with a couple statistics on median prices. Our single family home on Maui, median sales prices are up 28%.
Wait. 28%.
Not to 975,000.
Oh my God.
Condominiums median sales prices are up 9% to 620,000. Definitely a seller's market right now. You know, we've talked about the craziness. We're seeing a lot of people doing 1031 exchanges right now. They're selling properties on the mainland, buying properties on Maui. Some people are concerned that the government's going to end 1031 exchange. So there seems to be some extra motivation to do a 1031 tax deferred exchange if that's what somebody wants to do. I mean, with all that, we do see some signs of it slowing down just a little bit here on Maui. I would say not prices going down, but some of the craziness going down a little bit. But I mean, I don't think the strong market's going to go away anytime soon. I mean, we kind of need it to return to some balance, and I mean, we need some more inventory. All day I just get emails from realtors. I have a buyer. I want to buy this immediately. You know, I mean, there's just a lot of demand out there right now.
Yeah, look, gang, if you jumped in on when the show just started, you saw all my friends, they're all on the phone, closing deals, and that's kind of the way that's what's been going on. Scott, what's happening on Oahu that we haven't already talked about?
Yeah, if I tell you this week I'm on my third cup of coffee, and that's how I'm gauging the market. If the next show I'm doing it intravenously or something, then we'll really be having problems. But it's heading in that direction. No, it's insane. I mean, prices are up 15% here on Oahu for single family homes. And the crazy thing is I woke up, my brain's not stopping. So I woke up at 3 a.m. the other night. I said, you know what, I want to set up a search for myself to remind for a client of mine. And I set it up for Kailua single family home, 1.65 million or below. And I scratched my eyes. I'm like, man, I must be asleep that those results aren't right. And so I went back and checked. I looked and no, that's right. So I looked again. There was one home available on the market in all of Kailua under 1.65 million. And there were 37 in escrow. And that's a town area of like 40,000 people. So then I looked this morning because I'm like, this is getting insane at this point. So I look, and Ocean Point down in Eva, there's 2 homes on the market in the entire neighborhood. In Hawakale, there's 2 homes on the market in the entire neighborhood. There's like 25 in escrow in each of those subdivisions. The problem is no inventory, period. It's not, yes, there are more buyers, but the problem is actually on the inventory side that we're having. So prices are up 15%. It's going to get worse with that kind of restricted inventory. The condo side is interesting because if you look, 2 homes on the market with 23 in escrow, that's obviously way out of whack. On the on the condo side, I looked up Kaka'ako. There's 123 active, 98 in escrow, right? So once you get to the condo side, it's not as insane as the single family home side. So now that inventory is starting to deplete, but it's a much better market there, which we're at 5% price appreciation, and Oahu has a large number of high-rise condos. And I brought that Kahala listing back on this past week. I had over 40 parties through my open house. I got 2 cash offers on the table right now. I got 2 more people that are probably going to offer. There's 3 months of inventory, even above the 4 million price range. So it's from top to bottom on the single family home side. It's restricted, and it's a lot of people in the market.
Wow, that's just remarkable. I mean, this is where, we've said this so many times, where you really, if you're going to be buying a house, you better get aligned with a realtor that knows what they're doing, because this is a really, really crazy market. And Mark agrees. Man, I'm glad I have a good realtor. Mark, exactly. You've got the best in the business. Seriously. I brag about you guys all the time. It's for real. Between Heidi and Dylan and Scott, this is it. This is the game. Yeah.
So Dylan mentioned buyer fatigue, and I've always said this before. I'm in the psychiatry business. It just happens to be called real estate. This in particular is a time where the emotional handholding, it's a lot of stress for people to buy a home, period. Magnify it with this craziness going on. And it is absolutely important that you're working with someone that can guide you through that can help you with some of those emotional ups and downs that come through this market.
Yeah, I mean, totally. Hey, Scott, real quick, I want to give a shout out to Alex, Alex Martin. I popped this on while you were talking. Alex loves the palm trees blowing in the background. So, and Alex, I got to tell you, that is not a fake background. That's not a fake virtual video background. That's the background of where Scott lives. So that's the real deal. You're looking at it. Well done. And a question is this like the 2005-08 market? We've talked about this before. No, it's different. But Scott, what's your sense? How is this not like oh, hey, Dylan, you talked about this earlier. Dylan, how is this not like the 05-08 market?
The big difference is lending standards and the lending environment. So the 05 to 08 market was driven by very loose, easy money that people were using to speculate and buy additional homes, additional rentals. And then it drove, and there wasn't a lot of regulation in the market. So what was happening was realtors were sending unqualified buyers to lenders who were then qualifying them. And then appraisers were then appraising homes above value and putting people who probably couldn't afford it into a home that wasn't valued at what it should have been. And it led to the crisis that we got into. Those things have been fixed in financial regulations. There was a lot of collusion, kickbacks back and forth between lenders, appraisers, and realtors. You can't do that anymore. It's like they can't even buy you lunch anymore. It's like really touchy. So that's the biggest difference is that people who are buying, it's true demand, right? The people who are buying right now, they have 20, 30, 40, 50% down, or they have cash. So they're not coming in with a 0% down loan and no provable income like you could back in the day. And I always use myself as an example in this. Is I bought my first house in 2004. I was in college in the GI Bill with no income and no job, no real income and no job. My wife, who was not my wife at the time, was teaching for 6 months. We had no savings, no income, very little income, no assets, and we still got a loan to buy a house. So we were like the poster child for the kind of people who are getting qualified to buy homes that shouldn't. We were responsible. We paid our mortgage. We didn't get foreclosed on, but I'm sure there were many people like us who probably shouldn't have been buying at the time. And more recently, the last house I bought, I mean, it was really hard, and we are in a much better financial position now, but it was very stringent, and they double checked everything and made sure that your finances were in place and that, you weren't fudging the numbers on anything. So that's the biggest difference is the lending situation.
So to summarize, the big difference is that back then in 05-08, they were giving out loans to people that should not have been borrowing that kind of money. And even today, right? I mean, the three of us could probably speak to this. I have not closed a deal in the last 3 months where somebody didn't have a minimum of 20% down. I mean, you don't even compete. If you come to the table with a 0% down loan or a 2 or 3% down loan, I mean, they're still out there. You can get those loans if you're in the right, situation financially, and they're not bad programs, but they're just so uncompetitive right now because when you go in with 8 offers and 2 of them are cash, if you've got a low down payment loan, there's no way the seller's picking you. So even if the market shifts 10% in the next 12 months, if something crazy happens, something dramatic happens, these people, yes, they'll lose money on the value of their house, but they're not going to be underwater, right? They're still going to have 10% equity in the house because they put 20% down. If they're paying cash, they're not, and the market goes down, yeah, you might lose some of that value, but you're not going to be underwater. There isn't going to be this huge flood of foreclosures because people walked away from their homes because they bought their home for $400 and now it was worth $300, right? So that's a real big difference. Real big difference, yeah. And this is kind of an important topic because I think a lot of people ask this question. A lot of people ask, are we in a bubble? This is not the first time this has popped up. So I'm glad you went into detail. Heidi, is there anything you want to add to what Dylan said as far as the difference it feels? I mean, have you had any people who have not had a 20 or 30% down, or if not all cash deal? I mean, what would you add to what Dylan said about this question of, are we going into another bubble, 2005 and 2008? Heidi, you might be muted.
I think Dylan described it beautifully. I do think it's different. I mean, I was just thinking, I have buyers that are putting 20% down and they're getting beat out by full cash offers. So it's definitely a different market for sure than 2005 to 2008. I had an experience recently where a buyer provided a proof of funds in Bitcoin, and the seller ended up canceling on them because they wanted cash funds, and the buyer really didn't want to sell their Bitcoin. And they even created some incentive. I mean, in the offer, there was a $40,000 non-refundable deposit after 10 days if they could just leave their money in Bitcoin. Didn't come to agreement, and they ended up not getting the condo.
Right. This is not a seller's. This is not a buyer's market. This is so I'm going to hold on to my Bitcoin to see if it appreciates and blah blah. That, like, dude, you're making things too damn complicated. Scott, anything you want to add? Go ahead, no.
One more important stat, about the housing market supply and demand is that in the lead up to the early 2000s to the lead up to the bubble popping, there was record high numbers of 4 years leading up to 2008. There's record high numbers of new homes being built in America, across the country, if you look at national housing numbers. So if you take the 50-year average, right, those 4 years leading up to the bubble, there was record high numbers of new homes being built. In the last 10 years, the number of new homes being built has been well below the national average. So that's further contributed to the supply crisis, is that home builders just haven't been building at the rate they were before. So there was a huge supply of homes leading up to 2008 where people, again, right, were just buying them like crazy because of all this free money. And now there is a real constraint because population has continued to grow, right? I mean, millennials and the next generations have gotten into the home buying age. Baby boomers are living longer. So there's been a huge increase in demand for homes, but we've been building them at a slower pace than we ever have in the last 50 years. And that's further constrained supply. So that's a big fundamental difference in the market also. Big
fundamental difference. Hey, real quick before we get to Scott's point. So Alex commented that Bitcoin dropped 10K. So I don't know how that all went. And Jessica Morris, Islander Ohana member, best joke of the day. Yeah. But did the Bitcoin guy have a stack of wood in his shed? Put it in the offer. I mean, instead of my earnest deposit is a stack of wood in my shed. I know what it's worth. That's hilarious. Scott, is there anything that you want to add to what's been said already about the 05? Oh wait, you've been involved in all kinds of financial transactions. What do you how do you respond to that?
Yeah, everybody was making moves and getting money and moving around in that 2005 to 2008 market, to where there were just a ton of transactions. There were way more homes that you knew a new home was going to come on the market, a new opportunity was going to come on the market the next day during that time. And this is the exact opposite. You have to show there's a ton of cash out there and capital that people have access to. The lending restrictions are much tighter, but nobody's moving. So, I've got a client we wrote a $200,000 over asking offer the other day and lost it. And he's like, man, I don't get it, and we're going to have to wait another month for that same type of home that he wants to come up, where in 2005 to 2008, it's totally different. And the home building deficit they anticipate is going to last for about a decade for us to get caught up in that capacity. Wow. So I don't see us not having problems here for a while.
That's a strange statement. I don't see us not having problems for a while. So that means you do see us having problems for a while. So yeah, it's really, actually, this is maybe for another show, because we can kind of go down a fun rabbit hole here, because there's going to be, we're not going to have an 05-08 bubble, and we're not going to have a bubble in the way we're thinking about a bubble. But I know this, bubbles are always preceded by people saying, oh no, this is not like the last time. I know that. So
we got to have more than 1 year of 20% price appreciation. 1 year is not going to do it. You got to have more. And I'm working with too many people right now that are just sitting on a ton of cash. And here's the discussion I had with somebody the other day, a client of mine, and we actually ended up getting an escrow. Man, I can't believe these prices. 10 years ago, I bought a home in Kailua. It was so affordable at that time. And I said, whoa, how are you comparing this to 10 years ago? Listen, I know prices are going a little crazy and you're not comfortable with it, but you're bringing in a significant amount of cash. Are you comfortable with that mortgage payment? Yes. And that we were going to set that mortgage payment to where if they got sick, went in the hospital, lost their job, whatever, can you rent it out and cover it? Yes. Okay. What do you worry about? Set it and forget it at that point, because you're planning routes and you're going to be here for the long run. Even if there is a dip at some point, which I don't see here in the short run, you're going to make it up in the long run in the back end, and you need a house. housing is one of the three basics of life: food, water, and shelter. Do you want to dump $4,000 a month in paying somebody else's mortgage, or do you want to get in and have that kind of forced savings account?
Yeah, and funny, we just had this discussion just yesterday with some family that were lamenting the same kind of things. Like, man, housing is so expensive right now. Only 5 years ago this was so much cheaper. Like, yeah, but you can't. We don't live 5 years ago. We're living today, and we have to look forward. And it is what it is. All right, hey, let's kind of move this on just a little bit more. We got a couple of things that I want to kind of get. We got some questions here that I want to kind of hit. First of all, we have another shout out here from Sherman Gladsome. Aloha from Tennessee. Aloha, Sherman. Great. So glad that you're joining us. The Ohana keeps expanding, which is like so much fun. So let's hit a couple of questions here. So Rona had some questions that I want to hit. And let me kind of make sure I got the right ones over here so I don't miss any of them. So Rona had a few. So let's kind of grab this all together. So the first one from Rona was the chance to find a job, rent a house, or buy a house and build life in Hawaii from scratch. That's kind of one quick question, Rona. Rona, that one's an easy one. It's up to you. It's up to you. Some people come and fail miserably, and some people come and succeed wildly. It really is up to you. But another thought from Rona was, what's my chance of getting a loan based on an apartment I have on paper outside US? I still didn't get the apartment, but sooner or later we'll take the loan and buy the house in Hawaii. Rona, I would say you got to get a local lender. We've talked about this, and we have a class actually now, gang. We're in the middle of producing a real estate class for our Islander Ohana. If you go to islanderohana.com, that is our Hawaii transformation program. That's all about moving to Hawaii in the best possible way. We have a real estate class that's being built in construction. It's there already. But one of the things we talk about financing is get local lenders. You got to have a local lender to buy a house. So Rona, I would say this: you can make your dreams come true in Hawaii if you are willing and you are able. It's a long path, but you can do it. If you want to buy a house in Hawaii, you saw you can't use Bitcoin or lumber or paper you had on an apartment that you didn't get, but you have the loan, etc. You got to get here. You got to live here. You got to get a local lender, get pre-qualified, and that's kind of how you do it. Anybody else want to add anything to what Rona said?
Yeah, I don't think there's an issue with talking about moving here and getting settled in and getting a job and whatnot. Yeah, there's plenty of people doing it right now. It's totally doable. It's just setting up a plan and trying to execute it and being prepared. Preparations, we keep talking about preparation, being prepared in all aspects of the COVID components and everything. So that's the biggest key in this situation.
Rona, get on the newsletter. If you're not, there's links in the description. Click on the link, get on the newsletter. We send out newsletters every single week. The majority of the people that are here today, we're counting we have 35 people here right now with you. Most of those people are on the newsletter. You can also join the Ohana, which is, we had several Ohana members over here. Jessica's a member of the Ohana. Mark Whitehill's a member of the Ohana. Have them tell you about the experience they've been. This is the way you can kind of go through a guided process as well. All right, gang, let us move on. I got a fun topic over here that came in that I thought is kind of an interesting one that we could kind of chat about. So here's the topic. Is 30K enough? So this is from or at least I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to say Elsie from Sacramento. And she writes, is 30K to move to Hawaii with 2 kids under 12, is that enough while looking for work and schools for my kids? That's Elsie's question. And I think, it's a larger topic, right? So what does this mean? This means okay, I've saved, have I saved up enough money? It's kind of a financial question, but it's have I saved up enough money to move to Hawaii and to be able to kind of make it through? Now, generally speaking, what I tell people, and this is based on my own personal experience, is save up for 6 months worth of expenses. Play conservatively, do some research, figure out what it's going to cost you to live in Hawaii for 6 months on no income whatsoever. That's what I would do. 30K could be about right, but it all depends because everyone's different. Your 2 kids, do they require a lot of care? Are there additional expenses with children? My calculations were based on me moving here single. But what I tell people, generally speaking, is if you want to play it safe, come here with a 6-month cushion so you don't have to worry and get a place to rent. That's my general advice. Let's go around the corner, around the bend here. We'll go to Dylan, then Scott. Well, listen, let's start with Scott this time. We'll go to Scott, and then Dylan, and then Heidi. Sorry about that, gang. I kind of want to shake it up over here. So when someone comes, Scott, and says, hey, look, is this enough for us to live? Elisa's question specifically, I got 2 kids, is 30K enough? How do you answer that question, Scott?
Yeah, it comes down to your lifestyle and expenses. Like you were saying, you hit the nail on the head. I was going to say 6 months worth of expenses. If your expenses are $5K a month with having 2 kids, with rent and everything else thrown in, then yeah, you should be able to do it. I mean, you're going to have a hustle in your step to get a job and make things happen. So, you can get a rental, 2-3 bedroom rental for, $2,500 to $3,500 a month over here. And then, whatever your other expenses are, that puts you around $5-6 grand a month. You should be able to do that.
So it's kind of close, right? It's kind of close, but you have to, everyone's different. You have to look at your situation 6 months. So Dylan, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I think that would be tight. I mean, especially, Big Island, its cost of living is a little bit lower, in terms of housing, but same like Scott said, I mean, your minimum rent's probably going to be $2,000 a month. And I don't know how much your kids eat, but my kids are both under 12 and it costs me like $300 to $400 a week to feed them. So that can add up pretty quick. And then, do you have a car payment? What are your other financial situations? But it can be expensive. I mean, to me, you got to budget. Like, I think to be comfortable and not even live extravagantly, you got to have like $8,000 to $10,000 a month to live for, family of 4 in Hawaii. So
especially if your 2 kids under 12 are boys, right, Dylan?
Correct. Yes. Yes.
2 boys under 12, like, man, get ready for it.
There's no more leftovers anymore. We used to be able to cook for 2 days, and now those days are over. So,
and it's like as soon as dinner is over, like, Dad, I'm hungry. God bless you. So Heidi, how do you respond to Elise or others who kind of say, hey, look, I'm looking with my, me and my 2 kids, is 30K enough? How do you respond to that, Heidi?
Well, I would be thinking about what are the possibilities of types of jobs you could get. Because I mean, 30K it's a good amount of savings if you're going to be starting working right away when you move and making new income. So I would be really looking around and seeing what job options are available, what you would qualify for, what realistic income would be at some of those jobs. Because I mean, once you get past the first few months or first 6 months, I mean, you want to have a sustainable situation. And I mean, housing at the very minimum is probably going to be, I mean, like $2,500 to $3,500, and then you have all your other expenses. And I don't know if you need to buy a car or, I mean, there's other things too. So, but yeah, I mean, that was when I moved initially to Maui. I mean, finding a job and being able to work, I mean, that was important. I was able to take off about 6 weeks, but then I started working.
You had a nice 6-week long vacation in Maui, in other words, right, Heidi? Before you had before reality struck, is that it?
Yes, and then I thought, well, I better get a job.
Time to get a job. Yeah, look, I love all the perspectives of here, and Heidi, it was great because you kind of added on. It's not so much about what you've got saved, which is it's a fair amount, but it's more of like, hey, what does your job prospects look like, or how are you going to make the financial plan work afterwards? And Heidi, it's kind of funny because you're right on the money, and I completely agree with you. But yet, I don't know about you, but when I first moved to Hawaii, this was back in the mid 80s. I was 21 years old. I was so cocky and so clueless. I didn't even give a second thought as far as what my job prospects were going to be. I knew I would get some kind of a job that was completely stupid and wrong, of course, but that's beside the point. However, I did have 6 months. I did have 6 months of savings. So that is West. So we got some comments on this topic. So thanks, Alex. Alex Martin says, I think she should wait until the economy and shortage of supplies gets back to where it was. But if you're confident and a go-getter, good luck. You only live once. Yeah, and we've talked about this earlier. Do you put your life on hold, right, and kind of wait for things to get better, or do you just kind of go for it now? And I think our consensus back then about that kind of question was like, go for it. You kind of only live once, and the thing is, do it now. Live now. You live all you have is today. Go for it. And Alex says, we make $15K a month and I wouldn't do it right now. And Alex, everyone's got a different perspective, and God bless that you've thought about it with that kind of an income and it's still not right for you. And that's kind of what you've got to do. Everyone's got their own thing. Someone's got a comment here.
Yeah, I got a funny story for you from when I moved over from the mainland. I just graduated college. I was all stoked. I had a college degree. I was dressed up in I went for a job application at the Hilton Waikoloa Village when I moved over to the Big Island in 1999. And I go into the room to turn in my application, and I'm dressed up. I got a tie on and button-down shirt, which is a little strange, especially for the Big Island resort community. And there's some people in board shorts, slippers, and t-shirt turning their application in, and I'm straight off the boat from the mainland. I'm thinking, I'm going to get the job before these guys. And one of the guys goes up, oh, hey, Auntie Jane, gives the application. She said, oh, hey, brother Himo, how you been? Oh, you looking so good nowadays. And then didn't get a call for like a month and a half for the application. I was like, it doesn't matter. None of this stuff matters. It's who you know, not what you know over here and what you've done.
And that's actually universally true. It's universally true, really. It's just like Hawaii, for some reason, it really magnifies the heck out of that, right? It's all about the network. It's all about the network. And we stress this. We talk about this in our Islander Ohana courses about getting that job. It's really all about that network, especially for the higher end, the more desirable jobs. You really got to have some connection to make that happen. Yeah, great story, Scott. And Joyce, mahalo, Auntie Joyce, for your wisdom here. Joyce adds in, should also remember that childcare is expensive. My tenant's daughter cost $700 a month while schools were closed until she adjusted. Yeah, sometimes it may pay for actually mom to stay home these days with childcare, especially if you have 2 or 3 kids. And Dylan's nodding. You know what I'm talking about, Dylan. So great. Excellent, gang. Great feedback. Thanks for your input on that topic. Why don't we? Let me do a real quick pitch. I've talked about this already, but you've got to get in. If you're not on the newsletter, get on the newsletter. That's the key. So click on the link in the description. You'll get the email notifications once a week, every Wednesday. There's stories, there's videos. We take the show, we clip it up in the videos. We have great photos, and we notify you of when the next show is. So make sure you are a part of that. Let's see, it's about that time. We're going to move on to our other segment here where we talk about the what we call diamonds and deals. So diamonds and deals is where it's really kind of a fun, aspirational time. But that's not the diamonds and deal. That's the diamonds and deal slide. So, it's an aspirational discussion. I've asked Dylan and Scott and Heidi to kind of find some properties that they'd like to highlight for those 1 or 2 properties that are still on the market and still available. Let's just kind of look. And so it's kind of a fun spot. So let's get into that. And our first one here is in Lahaina, Maui. And, my screen, I'm on a different screen. So this is on actually we should have a contest, a Hawaiian pronunciation contest to pronounce the street name. So this is on Mahinahina Street in Lahaina, Maui. Heidi, what are we looking at here?
So this is a new listing of a single family home. It actually it's still on the market because it hasn't been able to be shown yet. It's tenant occupied and the showings start on the 20th. And they're just lining everybody up for showings. But kind of an interesting property. It's, as is common in this neighborhood, it's set up as multiple rentals. So the pictures that you see are of the top floor, and you have some really nice ocean views. The top floor is a 3-bedroom. It's rented for $3,000 a month. And then the first floor, there's a rental for $2,000 a month. And then there's a yoga studio with the bathroom that's rented as another living space as $1,100 a month. So it's really set up as 3 separate units. Not everything's necessarily permitted and conforming, but a lot of people do look for this type of property because they could live upstairs in the 3-bedroom and then have 2 rentals downstairs and make some additional income if they want it.
Wow. Yeah. So if you live upstairs, you're like $2,000 a month or so in rent between the studio and the yoga, the bottom unit and the yoga studio. That's quite it's quite a thing. Looks beautiful too. The view looks, Hawaii's got like the best views, right? Homes with views are like stunning. in Hawaii. It's just the best. All right. Thanks, Heidi. Let's see. What do we got up next? So what do we got up next here is this is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath Gold Coast condo listed for $29,550. Scott, what are we looking at here?
Yeah, I showed this one the other day, and it blew the doors off of me. I was just amazingly surprised. It's a top floor unit on the Gold Coast. It was actually a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, and a studio that were combined, completely gutted, rearranged, reconfigured, and the end result was like no detail was left thought of, down to central AC, which is not normal along the coastline. Plus, you have two parking stalls, so 2-bedroom, 2-bath, over 1,500 square feet, right on the ocean. The pocket sliders open up, and all you hear is the ocean. Palm trees are swaying right in front of your face. You see all the way down the coastline to the Waianae mountain range, but 1,520 square feet, and it's the maintenance fee is only $1,345 a month, which is really low for a condo of this size and in that location.
Wow. I mean, that is killer, man. I mean, just the view alone. I mean, that's an insane, it's not even a view. It's like it's like you're on top of the ocean, at least the way the picture looks like here.
Yeah, I mean, all that sound comes right up to you. You actually have multiple surf spots right out there, so you can just watch the sailboats go by on the Friday nights when they go down to the buoy a little further down, then turn around and come back. And it's, I would sit at that table, and I don't think I would probably move for hours on end. I didn't want to leave. We were actually in this unit for over an hour, just taking it all in. There's side windows down the side, so you get these different perspectives from even the master bedroom, which is actually down the side of the building. You can lay in bed and look down the coastline. Really unique unit, great airflow, but it has everything from central air conditioning to you name it. Phenomenal unit.
Scott, a Gold Coast, folks may know what Gold Coast is. Gold Coast, if I'm not mistaken, is that area. It's just outside of Waikiki. It's in sort of like the shadow of Diamond. So you have like Diamond Head right behind you. You're facing the ocean. You have Waikiki just to your right. Is that the Gold Coast area?
Yeah, the amazing thing for Gold Coast. So once you get out of Waikiki, you obviously have Kapiolani Park, right? And you have the zoo, the aquarium, the natatorium. Kaimana Beach on around almost to the base of Diamond Head is that Gold Coast section. So out your back door is a 300-acre park in Diamond Head, and out your front, or vice versa, however you want to do it, is this, just ocean oasis, this playground right in your backyard. So it's phenomenal. You walk out the back door, you can go for a jog.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing. But yeah, you're an Uber ride into Waikiki, 2-minute Uber ride to get to whatever you want in the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, 2-minute Uber. And I didn't think about that. You've got a Kapiolani Park, you're right, is right behind you. A beautiful 300-acre park is literally your backyard. So you got this killer park as your backyard. The ocean is your front yard. That's why it's called the Gold Coast, right? That's why they call it the Gold Coast. All right. Speaking of Gold Coast, Dylan, man, I think Dylan, you just blew this one Dylan blew the competition out of the water. I got to tell you, this is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath. Oh my God. Kohanaiki. Mahalo. Kohanaiki. I've got a small screen. I can't read clearly. Kohanaiki. Thank you, Dylan. 17.5 million. What on earth is this?
Well, this is the 3rd most expensive house on the Big Island. So I've been putting some deals and stuff, some more reasonable properties on this the last couple of weeks. So I thought I'd show kind of what the high end looks like. But I mean, this thing is just ridiculous. This is one of those really high-end developments that has a private golf course and all kinds of amazing amenities. And this one is overlooking a surf spot called Pine Trees, is kind of what the locals call it. Kohanaiki is the Hawaiian name for that ahupua'a. But one of the best surf spots on the island. You can kind of walk out to it. But yeah, just a stunner of a house. I mean, if you read the description on this thing, it's just crazy. The designers and the different architects, high-end people from New York were involved in this and all kinds of stuff. But just one of those completely stunning, amazing pieces of property that you can get here on the Big Island, in addition to little small $200,000 houses. So we got it all over here.
But there are no $200,000 homes anymore, at least on the market at this point. So
yeah, when I was looking this week to find something like this, I was looking like properties under $1 million, and there was like 10, and then they were all like 90 days on the market because they're all something, major flaw or majorly overpriced. And so it's really hard to find something from a deal standpoint because stuff goes under contract so quick. So I went for the diamond this week.
And what I mean, you're buying basically you're spending 17 million for to have your own personal resort.
Pretty much. It's a private resort. That's pretty much
private
what it is.
resort. That's which is like
Yeah.
crazy and amazing. So awesome. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out to Melinda Caro, who just joined us. Thank you, Melinda. Hello, everyone, and great to have you here. I think I got everyone's comments. Let me do a really quick check over here to make sure I got everybody, because we're coming into the 10 minutes left in the show. I want to make sure I did believe I covered everybody who said something. We're missing Jim. We're missing Jim from New York, who always is the first guy to join us. Jim, where are you? The show's it's just not right. It's just not right without you, Jim. But anyway, thanks everyone. Yes, I did get everybody. So why don't we do this? I think there is one more question I wanted to kind of cover. It's related to what we're talking about, and I think it's a relevant one. And that is this, and that is best time to buy a house. When is the best time to buy a house? And this whole thing about like now, like what's going on with the market? Do you wait to the craziness? Do you jump in now because you don't know what's going to happen? When is the best time to buy a house? Oh, there. Thanks, folks. Thanks, Spencer. Patrick, appreciate the great comment and love the comment. Thank you, Spencer. Another one from NYC. Yeah, welcome, Spencer. You got to find Jim. Where's Jim? Jim's missing. But thanks, Spencer. We're glad to have you here. Best time to buy a house. When is the best time to buy a house? Dylan, why don't you start us off with this? What do you tell people who are saying, this is crazy. I can't, maybe I should wait. What's your response, Dylan?
It's the same rule when applies to planting trees, right? Yesterday was the best time to plant a tree, and yesterday was the best time to buy a house. So, Scott always says, you can't time the market, right? People who think they can speculate and time the market usually are kidding themselves or they're wrong. And, as difficult as it is for buyers right now, one of the things that brings me pleasure on a daily basis is to email or text one of my clients that bought a house last year. There was just a house that came on the market yesterday that was next to a home that actually one of the Aloha people bought, and they got it for $699, and the house next door is now on the market for $799, like 5 months later. And so they're feeling like geniuses, right? That was a pretty good idea, but they had the faith, in late last year when people were saying, well, how everything's going to crash. I'm going to hold on. I'm going to wait. And they just had the faith. They moved forward and they made a great decision. No one could have guaranteed it at the time, but I don't think it's going to get any better. I mean, everybody who's under contract right now, even just a couple of weeks go by and they're so grateful to be under contract that they actually got something and didn't get beat out, because they're looking around and seeing that all this is just getting worse and worse and worse week by week. So even if they're not closed, they're feeling great because at least they have something and they're going to be able to close. So
it was like
yesterday.
Yeah. And here's a quick question and response. Jim and Kath. Hey, Aloha, are you guys seeing a lot of cash deals? Yes, a lot of cash deals. Scott, Dylan quoted you on your don't time the market. What do you tell people who say, look, is now the right time? Is it kind of crazy? For example, it was Alex. Alex said, hey, Alex Martin said, hey, hold off. Don't do it now. I'm not ready. Scott, what do you say?
Yeah, so I'm in the market. I got three things normally that I tell people for when you should buy a house. One is, do you have a stable job? Two, are you willing to put down roots or ready to put down roots? Because it's an investment into a place, a long-term investment into a place that you want to be. And three, three is like, are you ready to start building a financial foundation? Because that's what it is, the forced savings account. I kind of reference this and it's at streams. I talk in it streams a lot of time. I'm in the market right now. I'm not dissuaded. I'm not trying to time it. Everybody buys on a mortgage payment. So I'm just going to set the next property that I buy based on where I need that mortgage payment to be in a comfortable way. And if I have some emergencies, I have a backup plan on. It's not a big deal. If my client I had a client in Waipahu, I couldn't find her information in the county tax records she bought so long ago. It was like 50 years ago. And I said, Auntie, and we sold it for $550,000. I said, Auntie, how long ago did you buy this? She's 50 years ago. I said, how much you pay for this? She said, $20,000. I said, Jesus, man, I wish I could buy 1 million of those, right? Did you put down a down payment? I did. We scraped up every dime we could get to put 20% down so we could get the mortgage. Okay, doing the math, what, $4,000, right? How was it making the payments? Oh, we struggled every month for the first 2 to 3 years, and then we were comfortable after that. Okay, well, imagine if she paid 10% more at that time, what, $22,000? Do you think that $2,000 in today's market, when we sold it at $550,000, if she hadn't have done it at that time, what did that do for her, right? She also set her mortgage payment, which was less than $100 a month, into 50 years ago cost of living, and it never went up. And she made more money over time. So I don't time the market. It's everybody needs housing just like they need, water and food, right? So either you're paying someone else's, the sooner you can get into a house and you can set it, then you're building that financial foundation. It's the longevity. The only people that don't, that lose money in real estate are the ones that sell too soon, right? Now there's some other things that you can do. It's, demographic based and whatnot, but that's the general rule of thumb. I don't try to time the market.
Scott, what I really like what you brought is you brought a very different perspective, which is you didn't say one thing about the market or the price or the whatever. What you did was interesting to me is you timed it in terms of, are you at the life stage where you're ready to make a purchase? Like you said, are you ready to settle down roots? Do you have a job that gives you the finances? Are you ready to kind of start to build a financial future? You put those questions in place. It wasn't about the price, which was interesting. I like that.
Well, that's the first part. Once you get past that, then analytical Scotty comes in and we can start looking at what the strategy is for maximizing and getting you where you want to go.
Right. Let me pull out the spreadsheet.
I'm in the asset acquisition phase of my life at this point. If I had 20 million in real estate right now, free and clear, that gives me freedom of choice. If I don't have that, which I can't retire. I need to acquire more assets. What am I waiting for? I already have run the analysis a million times on if I buy now versus waiting. It's way more beneficial for me from all the components that I get from real estate of doing it now versus waiting. I'm trying to acquire as fast as I can.
That's it. Buy yesterday. Plant the tree yesterday, like Dylan says. And Pam, Pam, I hope you appreciate this. I know you appreciate this as much as I do. A big mahalo, mahalo Dylan, mahalo Scott for this. And a quick shout out here to Sung Ye, who says, "Aloha, en route to Honolulu for the first time. Awesome. Day trip. Awesome. Be there by 7 p.m. today. Awesome. Good for you." Heidi, how do you respond? What's your response? What would you add in to what the guys have said so far as best time to buy a house? How do you respond to that, especially now?
Well, do you need a place to live? I think when you're buying for your primary residence, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like when you can afford it, when you can comfortably afford it, when you're ready to take on the responsibility of homeownership, it's really to your benefit. Your asset the market would have to severely tank for you to lose money, and then you'd have to sell it, at a bad time in the market. For the most part, you're going to need a place to live anyway. I see a lot of people renting here on Maui, and I know that that's a great way to get started and perhaps make the initial move. And that's what I did when I first moved. But I am so, so thankful every day that I purchased a home, because one of the challenging things about renting is you don't control it. And I had to move about 3 times when it wasn't my choice when I was a renter. And that's very disruptive to your life. And it's expensive to keep moving too. It brings such peace of mind to own my own home and knowing that I'm paying this money every month and it's going towards an asset that I own and it's going back to me versus just going to my landlord who might decide to sell the property next month and kick me out. So.
Yeah, well said. Actually, Heidi, when you mentioned, because you and I have a lot of parallels. We both came from Illinois. You moved to Hawaii. You moved to Maui. I moved to Oahu. And Scott, I was thinking about your auntie story. Look, I'll give you my auntie story, and it's me. I bought my first condo. I believe it was like 80, 89, something like that. 88, 89. I paid $64,000 for my condo in Hawaii. $64,000. Now it was not. It was in a quote unquote substandard neighborhood. It wasn't a killer place, but I loved it. And I didn't buy. I bought on. I know I need to do this, so I'm going to do it. I didn't buy on on market kind of timing. In fact, the time I bought was right after the Japanese bubble. There was a Japanese bubble in Hawaii. The Japanese bubble was in. I think it was in full force and was like a quote unquote the wrong time to buy timing wise, but it didn't matter to me. And it was the best thing that I ever did. So there's your anti-story right there.
Two more quick questions you got to ask yourself, right? Is one, do you think prices will go down in the future? And two, do you think interest rates will be better in the future? Right. So if you're waiting, those are two really important aspects, because even if we only have 3 to 5% appreciation over a couple of years and interest rates go up, and I think we talked about this in the last show, 1%, 1.5%, you can run the numbers and what does the cost of that piece of property cost you over 30 years versus if you buy it today, maybe for more than you want to pay. If you pay $20,000 more than you wanted to now, that's $20,000. What is it? What if it costs you $80,000 to $100,000 over the course of paying more in interest and for the appreciation when you actually do buy? So there's some financial decisions too. If you're looking at numbers, you can easily make that calculation and figure out what does it actually cost you 2 or 3 years from now based on those projections versus now. So
yeah, and again, and that's all true, and that's like the spreadsheet phase. But I really like kind of Scott's like, is it? Are you at that time in your life, like you, Dylan? You bought the house not on numbers. You bought the house because you were planning on building a family. You and your wife to be were like, okay, we got to get a house for our family and for our future. And that's
we just did that. We bought the house like we always wanted to be in during COVID in April, like after the world shut down, and it was like, we kind of thought about like, is this a good idea? Like taking on a second mortgage and upgrading at this time, but it was like, this is where we wanted to be. This is the house we wanted to be in, the piece of property we wanted to be in. And we said, we're just going to do it and figure it out. Right. And then it worked out. So
it worked out great. Yeah. It worked out great. So we have a couple of comments here before we wrap it up. So Jim and Kath, I figured as much. I'm an underwriter here in the Pacific Northwest. Have seen people offering $100 to $400K over listing price and $100K non-refundable earnest money deposit. Things are crazy everywhere. I enjoy your show. Thanks, Jim. So glad that you're here. Welcome. And we have an aloha from Kona from Valisa Ku'uipo Tavares. Welcome, Valisa. Great.
How's it going, Ipo? Thanks for watching.
All right. Okay. That must
buddies.
be a family. All right. One of the buds. Awesome. Great to have you folks here. Joyce is chiming in. I agree with Heidi. We're thankful every day we found Dylan and bought our forever home. Well, there you go, man. And Joyce, I'm forever thankful I met Dylan too. I got to tell you, it's been one of the best things I ever did in my life. And Melinda agrees. I agree. I plan to purchase a home. No more renting. Yeah, that's what you got to do. You have to get out of that. All right, gang. We're gonna wrap this one up over here, and we have our traditional closing thoughts. Why don't we go, Heidi, Scott, and Dylan? Give us your closing thought, Heidi.
Well, this closing thought is just a little bit of a reflection on our recent market. Good things come to those who don't wait.
Good things come to those who do not wait. I love it. Love it. Scott, what's your closing thought?
I haven't even gotten to the closing thoughts yet. I've been running around so crazy.
Yeah, like closing is so far off. We can't close yet. What's your closing thought, Scott?
Don't have one.
More coffee, please. More coffee. More coffee. One more cup of coffee. Dylan, what's your closing thought?
So I've been thinking about lately, and this is just a good rule for life, is put yourself in other person's shoes, right? But I've been using this a lot lately in negotiations because you have some animosity happening between buyers and sellers because buyers feel like sellers are taking advantage of them because they, are asking such high prices and demanding all these different concessions. And then, sellers feel like they can take advantage and just ask for whatever they want and be greedy, So I keep reminding no matter what side I'm on, put yourself in the other person's shoes. And how would you feel if you were being asked this or demanded of that? And, let's try and come to something that's reasonable for both sides. Cause I get it, we're in a crazy seller's market, but at the same time, the world, you get what you put out into the world, So I think if you have some goodwill, it always comes back tenfold. So put yourself in other person's shoes. It's a good perspective sometimes.
Yeah, well said, man. Put yourself in other person's shoes. I believe Native Americans call it a walk a mile in the other person's moccasins, right? Or the Christian way is, do unto others as you would have them to you. Mm-hmm. That is a great and pertinent closing thought. And Tom Main says, can't wait. Can't wait for what, Tom? Moving to Hawaii, obviously, I would think. Can't wait. Tom, I can't wait either. So hey, folks, listen, gang, wanted to wish you all this was a great show as usual. You all made it great by attending and asking those great questions and interacting with us. That's what makes it so much fun. And Dylan from the Big Island, Scott from Oahu, and Heidi from Maui. See y'all later. Say aloha, everyone. Have a great one. See y'all in 2 weeks. Aloha.
Have a good weekend. Aloha.
Aloha.